What's good, guys? Welcome back to the full card predictions for UFC 311 Islam Makhachev versus Tsarukyan 2. I'm going to be breaking down the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. I already wrote down all my notes, wrote down everything. Looking at this card looks absolutely stacked. Islam Makhachev defending his belt in a rematch against Tsarukyan, the only man to ever take him down. And that was a younger Tsarukyan. That was when Tsarukyan was really young. That was his UFC debut. Marabdashvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Khabib's going to have a lot of work to do at UFC 311. Rainer de Ridder versus Kevin Holland, by far one of my most anticipated matchups. Rainer de Ridder's funny. He's goofy. He reminds me a little bit of DDP. Benil Dariush, Renato Moicano, sick fight. And this is the bout order right now, but by the time we get to 311, the bout order is not going to look like this. It's all good. It's going to be in better form, but I believe the main card is at its final form. I hope Payton Talbott is moved up on the prelims a little bit so we could have a little bit more anticipation for him. But let's get into it. Let's go. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. This is going to be on Tapology, it's the first match. I don't think it's going to be the first match. When I look at this fight, Tagir Ulanbekov is minus 230. Clayton Carpenter's plus 190. Obviously, the odds might fluctuate. They might change. Tagir is a true vet taking on an uppercomer. Clayton, Tagir's a hard wrestler. We just saw him training with Mighty Mouse. If you saw that, go watch it. If you haven't, go watch it. Khabib and Mighty Mouse. That was awesome on the Mighty Mouse channel where Demetrius and Tagir were seen side by side. And Tagir looks super tall, but Mighty Mouse held his own in the grappling department. Tagir Ulanbekov comes forward, decent striking. Right after he strikes, he's always looking to shoot for a takedown. All 4 of his UFC wins were grappling clinics, 12 takedowns and 2 submissions, which is very important. Tagir's takedown defense is a little bit terrible. Tim Elliott showed us that. He was scheduled to fight Joshua Van, which I would have loved to see that fight. But Tagir missed weight like a weight bully he is, but I'm just joking. Clayton Carpenter, he is a really good grappler himself. Takes any chance he gets to hunt a sub. Only 8 fights, but he has been competing ever since he was a kid, coming off of that sub win over Lucas Racha, where the wrestling and control dictated the pace, but Clayton can't strike if his life depended on it. Tagir is a beast, especially after seeing him wrestle and train with Demetrius Johnson, see how the whole camp looks, just a little bit of an insight, see how Khabib is basically treating these guys like if he's the coach. I'm very high on Tagir Ulanbekov, and I think he's going to wipe the floor with Clayton Carpenter. Enough said, Clayton Carpenter's undefeated. Obviously, there's a lot of inactivity. He comes from LFA, Nick Clan submission, a KO, nice head kick KO decision right here against Edgar Chairez, which we know Edgar Chairez went toe-to-toe with Joshua Van, so that's a pretty good win, very good win. So this more than likely, the over 2.5 might hit, but we have to mention how majority topology is not here, so that's a very important aspect. I do like Tagir Ulanbekov by submission on points. I like the over 2.5. I think this fight goes the distance. 5'7" to 5'6", 70-inch reach to 66. Clayton Carpenter's going to have a 4-inch reach disadvantage. We got to see how they look when they face off against each other. But I expect Khabib to be in Tagir Ulanbekov's corner. I expect him to be there. So I don't think this is going to be the first fight of the night. I think Tagir Ulanbekov should be able to win. His loss against Tim Elliott was a little sketchy, but I think he's gotten so much better since then. He has a little bit of inactivity, almost a year ago since he fought Cody Durden, and we know Cody Durden is not that good. So he could have been active, but he chose not to. He chose not to be active. Maybe that's an injury. I don't know. Let me know if it's any hindsight or anything that I'm missing out on. You guys can comment it down below. Let's go. I'll go Tagir Ulanbekov to win by 29-28 unanimous decision. Wrote all my notes. Let's go. I was writing all my notes today, so let's go. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. This is going to be a banger fight. We know Diego Ferreira was very on a little bit of a skid, losing to Benil Dariush split, Gregor Gillespie KO, and then Matus Gamera by KO, which is insane. Now that he's bounced back, beat Michael Johnson by KO, and then Matus Rebecki. We know Michael Johnson just beat Otman Azaitar, so that Michael Johnson win is pretty good, considering Michael Johnson just knocked out Otman Azaitar brutally. Grant Dawson, KGD. His most recent loss was to Bobby Green by KO. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. Honestly, a lot of people are saying this is one of the most boring fighters on the entire roster or on the entire card of UFC 311. But sometimes it takes 2 to tango. Honestly, Grant Dawson averages about 4 takedowns per fight. His bread and butter is his takedowns, his grappling, his relentless pressure. Decent on the feet, but got KO'd by Bobby Green. Flat, cold. He needs to grapple hard and heavy if he wants to win. He's coming off of that ground and pound win over Rafa Garcia. Now taking on Diego Ferreira, an absolute BJJ machine with hands of stone. A grappler at heart, but solid striking. Low takedown accuracy at 30%. He should be the better striker. His takedown defense is 60%. He's always fighting a wrestler. Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, Mateusz Gamrot, coming off of that dogfight win over Mateusz Rebecki, where he was dropped, taken down over and over, but never stopped. Pick your poison. Diego inside the distance or Grant Dawson by KO or decision. If Grant can't wrestle, he will lose this very badly, and it'll be obvious from the jump. Diego was taken down 4 times, but has a very decent get-up game. I think Dawson should be able to fit his price tag, but we have to mention that Grant Dawson's chin is a little bit susceptible to cracking. Grant by decision is the play for me, but also Diego Ferreira inside the distance / no action is a good one as well. I want to mention if it's going Grant Dawson's way, if he can dictate the pace, if he can get his ball rolling, if he can get everything rolling, I think Grant Dawson can easily win this fight by unanimous decision. I know Majority Tapology has this by unanimous decision. The last time he fought Rafa Garcia, I took him by decision, and you got to be careful when you're taking Grant Dawson just to win specifically on points, because he was actually able to finish that fight inside the distance with vicious ground and pound. And if he's forced to, he might have to just finish this fight against Diego Ferreira. We know he's gotten finished before by Gregor Gillespie, who that guy got viciously KO'd by Kevin Lee. So if you're getting finished by Gregor Gillespie, who's to say Grant Dawson can't finish you and knock you out clean? I'll take Grant Dawson by KO or on points. I also like the double chance by submission or on points. Obviously, the odds right now are Grant Dawson. I believe he's a minus 280. He might be a minus 250. I'm not looking too deep into the odds. Some fights I will. But we know the clear moderate favorite is Grant Dawson. Should be able to win this fight. I'll take Grant Dawson by KO or on points. And let's go. And if I have to choose a specific prop, I'll take Dawson by points. 29-28, unanimous decision. Diego Ferreira is pretty good. It's just that, his most recent wins, he's actually a more rejuvenated Diego Ferreira. I'll go Grant Dawson to win this fight by unanimous decision. Should be a hard, tough fight. And I think Grant Dawson is going to get cracked, but I think he should be able to have good recovery and get right back up. If not, just shoot for another takedown. Ricky Turcios versus Benardo Sopaj. Another banger fight. Ricky Turcios plus 240. Benardo Sopaj minus 298. Just like the last time this bout was scheduled. Ricky always comes forward. In half of his UFC fights, he lands over 100 significant strikes. So this one wasn't that hard to break down, because if you've been watching, or if you've just been watching a lot of prediction videos, you know that this bout was scheduled almost a month ago and then it was canceled. Ricky Turcios lands over 100 significant strikes, doesn't have much besides his volume, 50% takedown defense, coming off of that second round submission loss to Raul Rosa, where it was close until it wasn't. Taking on Benardo Sopaj, back from the dead. And I say that because, in my opinion, that was KO of the year, but he was a victim of it. Sopaj is a high-paced, decent cardio, and good takedowns, with great takedown defense, in my opinion, as well as he's had a very tough UFC debut where he was having a lot of success against Vinicius Oliveira until he got finished badly. In my opinion, he was a victim of KO of the year. That type of KO is a type of KO that no one will ever come back from or be the same of again. But we know nothing is impossible. When this fight was booked about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months, it was around 7 months, but 7 months at that time that Sopaj got knocked out. So it was around 7 months ago. So it looked like it was a quick turnaround, but now it's around 10 months by the time this fight happens. His brain should be healed, but that chin definitely took some damage. But Ricky is absolutely atrocious. So if you get knocked out by Ricky Turcios, in my opinion, I think you should get cut from the UFC. There should be a clause. If you get dropped, if you get wobbled or anything by Ricky Turcios, or even if you lose to Ricky Turcios, you should be cut from the UFC. We know Raul Rosas had a very competitive fight with him. And after that first round, it was a little sketchy. I saw Raul Rosas at a minus 154, so I jumped on it live. And then he was able to find that second round submission. We know Benardo Sopaj is the Lion King. Had a very successful debut. Was coming off and I say successful because of how much success he was doing against Vinicius Oliveira. We know Vinicius Oliveira is very good. That performance he did against Ricky Simón was by far one of my... It put me on the map. When I saw Vinicius Oliveira against Ricky Simón, I now know who Vinicius Oliveira is and what he's capable of. So the fact that Benardo Sopaj was on the edge of that KO or on the wrong end of that KO, that's fine. I think he should be able to take down Ricky Turcios, should be able to impose his will, and he should be able to manage his cardio, because we know that cardio issue was very much obvious. At the end of that third round, it was obvious that this guy was tired. He was like walking towards the end of the cage, and he sees Vinicius Oliveira charging at him, and he just eats a flying knee. So, in my opinion, I think that KO is very brutal. I don't think Ricky Turcios is going to be able to maybe hurt him. 10 months is very good coming off that KO. I feel more confident now than I did last time. So I'll go Benardo, Sopaj, the Lion King to win this fight. And I'll go by KO on points. This is what I said the first time around. And I think I had him in my 6 most confident best bets, I think. I'm not sure. I have to go double check. But Benardo Sopaj is by far one of my most confident picks on this card for UFC 311. I'll take him by KO on points. And specifically, I'll go by decision. We have to look at this, though. Number 117 versus number 64. When it comes to rankings, sometimes you have to pay attention to that because of the experience. Ricky Turcios has faced the toughest of the tough. Benardo Sopaj has, but he's very new to the UFC. This is his second fight inside the UFC. So let's hope he has a successful second fight in the UFC. Payton Talbott versus Raoni Barcelos. This is by far one of my most anticipated fights on the card. That's why I want it a little bit higher on the card. So that way, you know, if you have people, you're like, yo, when Payton Talbott comes, you have to watch him. You have to watch Payton Talbott fight because this guy is always going to put on a master class. He's always going to put on a clinic. And he's funny. I watch his YouTube videos. He doesn't have his own YouTube channel, but he did this thing where he was talking to like 6 girls or 7 girls behind the curtain. And then you have to see whether he's going to like choose a girl or not in blind dating. And he tells the girl like he's a fighter. You know, he finishes his opponent in the first round. And it's pretty funny. He has pretty cool aura to him. So when you look at Talbott, Talbott equals aura. A real prospect has the potential. UFC wants this guy to be a star. Flashy, fluid, flow state. I hope he puts on a Manel Cap type performance. Like, you know, when this guy was like dancing around him, Manel Cap looked amazing. He looked like he entered the Matrix. So, with that being said, I hope Payton Talbott puts up a Manel Cap type performance. With that being said, UFC wants this guy to be a star. Flashy, fluid, flow state. I hope he puts on a Manel Cap type performance. Super tall, fights with good range, manages distance very well. Super fast 1-2, very good accuracy on his 1-2, very good get-up game. He has been out-grappled before, but he has gotten better every single fight. He's coming off of that super quick KO win over Yanis Gamori, now taking on Raoni Barcelos. And if I'm pronouncing it wrong, let me know. A guy who Father Time may be his own demise, a good striker, good low kicks, good pace. He's a 5-time Brazilian national champion, averages around 2 takedowns per fight. He has an 85% takedown defense, very well-rounded, by far one of the most well-rounded Brazilians in the bantamweight division. And I believe his most recent win is over Christian Caiones. If Raoni Barcelos can wrestle, he can take a round off of Talbott, and the plus 3.5 can win for Raoni Barcelos. We know Talbott is finishing everybody in the first, second round inside the distance. UFC knows how to build up their prospects, so they're slowly building up Talbott. Payton Talbott by KO inside the distance is what majority Tapology is going to pick. I already know. The fact that this is the first fight that we saw that Tapology is picking, it's obvious that majority, 98% of Tapology is going with Talbott by KO inside the distance. I want to mention how Raoni Barcelos has fought the toughest of the tough, that being Umar Nurmagomedov. This guy has fought Umar Nurmagomedov, and now they're feeding him to Payton Talbott. He lost to Umar Nurmagomedov by left hook KO. That's fine. And now he might lose again inside the distance by Payton Talbott. These guys know how to build up their prospects, especially undefeated prospects. They know how to get these guys going and get the ball rolling. 37 years old, basically 38 now. And I know this has nothing to do with MMA, but Usyk was 38 years old, had a little bit of success against Tyson Fury, who was 36. So sometimes age is not a factor, but I would say for the lighter weight classes, age is a major factor. So for lightweight and down, I take age very, very seriously. For welterweight and up, I don't take that much consideration into it. 26 years old for Payton Talbott. We have to mention that the inexperience is on Payton Talbott. Raoni Barcelos, 18-5, clean record, beautiful record. And I think that they're doing very good matchmaking here. I do think that this fight touches the second round. If there's an over 1.5 or under, more than likely the under 1.5 might hit. This guy comes from Dana White Contender Series, Reyes Cortez. All of his finishes, majority of his finishes are around round 2, round 3. Round 2, round 3. So if you really study him, right here we have rear naked choke, round 2, punches, round 3, punches, round 2 at the beginning. Round 3, round 2, round 2, round 3, round 2. But it's at the beginning of round 2 usually. Right here, 4 minutes and 26 into round 2. KO round 3. rear naked choke, round 3, round 2, and then he got his first round 1 finish against Yanis Gamori. I do think this is going to be a round 2, round 3 KO. I do like fight starts round 2. If you guys see that prop, I think this fight should start round 2. If there's an over 1.5, it's a little bit of a Hail Mary, but I will sprinkle it. And I like Payton Talbott to win by KO inside the distance. I'll go Payton Talbott by 3rd round KO. Raoni Barcelos is very good with his leg kicks. I think his leg kicks is going to give Talbott a little bit of a issue. We know Cameron Saman was kicking him in the nuts. And Talbott was saying that he was kicking him in the nuts on purpose because he was trying to stall time. So there's some aspects in the fighting that I just learned when it comes to Talbott. He shows us a lot. He shows us a lot, and I hope he doesn't show too much, but he's able to have more success over and over again. I do think he might get taken down once. So Raoni Barcelos, I do think he can take a round off of Payton Talbott. I'll go Payton Talbott by 3rd round KO. Let's go. That's a banger fight. Absolute banger fight. So, okay. We already know, I didn't break down the odds for Payton Talbott, but that guy's going to be a -1,000, -800, -500. So Payton Talbott by KO is probably the best odds. Sometimes we have to look for over or unders. So that's why when it comes to big favorites like that, you have to look for props. -180 for Zach Reese, Sedriques Dumas +150. I don't have the odds for every single fight, so bear with me, guys. 8-1 for Zach Reese, 10-2 for Sedriques Dumas. Zach Reese, the moneymaker, a guy who can fight for your money. 6'4", a beast. Very well-rounded, but has hands made out of stone. Can wrestle on the ground. He is a BJJ expert from top or bottom, but sometimes he hangs out way too much on bottom. His most recent win is over Jose Medina. His one loss is to Cody Bumditch. After he kept on holding the triangle, Cody lifted him and slammed him onto the ground to get out of that submission, and he ended up winning that fight. So, Cody, all credit to you. Sedriques Dumas doesn't brawl, very technical, always improving. He has a lot of potential. He was actually on my 6 best bets in his most recent fight, I believe, against Dennis Talulin. I believe against Dennis Talulin, he was on my 6 best bets, and he cashed. So, it's going to be a very tough fight, but both of these guys have always fought for their price tag. He has a lot of potential, very well-rounded, and a very solid chin, but his chin will be tested here. Most recent win is over Dennis Talulin, where his grappling looked questionable, and he didn't look like he knew what he was doing. In the cage, he's not that dangerous, but he's always getting better, and he has a very tough resilience. Zach Reese for the win. I'll take Zach by KO or submission. I'll take Zach by KO on points as well, just in case this gets sloppy, and Dumas is tougher than we expect, but he could get a sub. I'll jump on Zach Reese now. At a -180, I expected Zach Reese to be a -500 over a guy like Sedriques Dumas. I do think his KO to Nozatin Roziboev, it was a little weird. It was a little weird. It happens. Whatever. We'll go to the next fight. 29 years old versus 30. This is a very good matchmaking fight. Honestly, I think that Sedriques Dumas looks a little more intimidating than the way that he fights. He doesn't really fight the way that he looks. When you're going for a job application, and you're looking at Sedriques Dumas and you're asking him, oh, okay, so yeah, do you have any face tats? Okay, all right, so, all right. And then when you see him in the cage, it's like, oh, this guy's a Care Bear. He's not really that dangerous. So, I'm going to go Zach Reese inside the distance. I think Zach Reese by KO on points is the best prop, but we have to remember this guy is a submission king. He likes to go for submissions, has a submission in his Dana White Contender Series, and was trying to go for a submission against Cody Brundage until Cody Brundage said, get off of me, and slammed him on his head. So give me Zach Reese by KO on points. I'll go specifically by KO in the second. I'll go in the second round. So I'll go second round KO for Zach Reese. I'll take Zach Reese by KO on points just in case he has another Jose Medina performance, and it's by decision. Let's go Zach Reese for the win. Let's go. This is amazing when you look at the odds for this fight. Karol Rosa, -162. Ailín Pérez, +136. Probably one of the first times Ailín Pérez is the dog in this fight or in the UFC. OnlyFans queen, Ailín Pérez, decision machine. Karol Rosa lands almost 7 significant strikes per minute, always willing to trade. And she's very well-rounded. She has 12 takedowns in 10 UFC fights and 68% takedown defense. No power, but cardio is on her side. She's coming off of that win over Lain Khalzad, where she chopped her opponent's legs off with that performance. Now matched up against Ailín Pérez. Forward pressure, wrestling, twerks after every single win that she has. Good striking, and she needs to bully her opponents to the ground. Sometimes she's aggressive, falls off sometimes because of how aggressive she is. She slips off. Her first finish win inside the UFC was over Daria Zelenakova. And Pérez missed weight in that fight, and she still won. We know a lot of people were scared because she missed weight, and she looked like she was about to pass out on the scale, but she still had a good performance and actually finished her opponent. So if anything, missing weight helped her perform better. Pérez is the dog at plus 136. If Ailín can wrestle, she can get this done. One of the best underdogs on the card, by far one of the best underdogs on the card. But Rosa has very good striking, which won't matter if she gets taken down. I will say Karol Rosa is the heavy favorite at a minus 162, maybe moderate favorite, but look at Tapology. If I go and I look at the odds, minus 162 Karol Rosa, plus 136 Ailín Pérez, then when you go on Tapology and you see that the favorite on the bookies is not the favorite on Tapology, you know that we're looking for the dog. I'm going to go Ailín Pérez at a plus 136. I'll just take the money line. I think if the takedowns are relentless, if the takedowns are bullying, if she's able to bully her opponent down, should be able to get her takedowns. And it doesn't matter if Karol Rosa has good kicks, good striking, good fundamental defense. It all doesn't matter if she gets taken down. I'll go Ailín Pérez to get another win. She could get submitted. She got submitted by Stephanie Egger, but Karol Rosa is more likely a decision machine. More than likely, this fight goes the distance, over 2.5. Will this fight go the distance? Yes. And I'll take Ailín Pérez by points. After losing the first round by getting her legs chopped up, eventually she gets a takedown in the second and third, and then she's able to win. And it's a sweat. So I'll take Ailín Pérez. Let's go. Underdog for the win. Let's go, Argentina. It's going to be a banger fight. Johnny Walker is always in a fight where he is about to... Is Johnny Walker going to die? I hope Johnny Walker doesn't. I really hope. Honestly, Johnny Walker is that guy. He always will be that guy. He has always showed us fun fights. Johnny Walker's on a very, very long skid. No contest against accidental illegal knee. And that was Magomed's fault. And then he lost at the beginning of 2024 to Magomed Ankalaev by KO. And then he lost to Volkan Oezdemir by KO as well. I thought the over 1.5 was going to hit in that fight, and the over did not hit. In fact, the under 1.5 hit in the Volkan Oezdemir fight. He's taking on Bogdan, Guskov, Anthony Smith, however you guys want to call him. Look at majority Tapology. This fight is not going the distance. Plus 100 for Johnny Walker, minus 120 for Guskov. No chin, Jonathan Walker. Is he about to die again? Isn't he? That's what I wrote. No chin, Johnny Walker. Unorthodox beast, manages range very well, good low kicks, looks good until you touch his button. His most recent KO loss to Volkan Oezdemir, second KO loss in a row, now matched up against a beast, Bogdan Guskov, super underrated, super overlooked athlete, real power, keeps his hands low, good combos. If he can't KO you, he takes you down, strikes on top, good pot shots. His most recent win was by KO over Ryan Spann. If Guskov can't KO Walker, then this is one of the biggest traps on UFC 311. Walker at heavyweight would have been so much better than him at light heavyweight and continuously get knocked out. He might get KO'd for the third time in a row. Guskov, as a slight favorite, is a good money line. Guskov for the win, he might be a minus 200 by the time this fight starts. I will say that 82-inch reach is good for Anthony Smith. Johnny Walker, but he's not going to use it. He's going to strike inside the pocket. Against Volkan Oezdemir, he was on the cage, and you shouldn't be on the cage at all if you're 6'6". At all. You should not touch the cage, not even with the hairs on your arm or the back of your leg. You should not touch the cage at all if you're 6'6", because that's how they can control you, get to you, and close distance, and then eventually finish you. Unfortunately, Johnny Walker, I think MMA Guru had the best take for him. Go to heavyweight. You need to go to heavyweight, but I think the UFC wants to cut Johnny Walker. And unfortunately, as much as I like Johnny Walker, I think they're feeding him to the wolves. And I think whoever's matchmaking this, whether it's Sheen Shelby or whatever, they hate Johnny Walker. Whoever is matchmaking Johnny Walker's UFC career, or his manager, or whoever's asking him, hey, do you want this fight? They hate him. They don't care about him enough. Paul Craig KO. Anthony Smith, beautiful decision. And then he fights Magomed Ankalaev. It's like the matchmaking, the potential that Johnny Walker had, until obviously we've seen him get KO'd in boxing by a 16-year-old as well. But it's like Johnny Walker is a guy who can definitely... in another dimension, this guy would fight for the belt at least once. At least once. Title contention at least once, especially at light heavyweight. But because of the way they managed his career, he might be on the verge of a third knockout in a row. And it doesn't even matter who his opponent is. His opponent lost to Volkan Oezdemir as well by submission. But it doesn't matter because he's going to go to sleep. It does not matter. So, like, sometimes you can't look too much into the fight. I say take money line on either side. This fight definitely doesn't go the distance. Parlayable. It's probably going to be a minus 200 that this fight doesn't go the distance. Maybe minus 250. I'll go Bogdan Guskov by KO. And I'll just take him at money line at a minus 120. And I took him right now. Half a unit already on him at a minus 120. Just straight money line. Just took him over Johnny Walker. I feel bad for Johnny Walker, but he's going to have to learn the hard way. Let's go. I hope Johnny Walker can win, man. I picked him against Volkan Oezdemir. I picked Johnny Walker, bro. I'm always on Johnny Walker's side, bro. Whether he gets KO'd 5 times, 6 times, 7 times in a row, I'll always be on Johnny Walker's side. Serghei Spivac versus Jailton Almeida. I just want to make sure that we're on the right fight. Serghei Spivac versus Jailton Almeida. This is going to get crazy. Jailton Almeida minus 250. Serghei Spivac plus 205. Savage versus Savage. Both of these guys come forward and wrestle. We got to look at their faces. Both of these guys come forward and wrestle. Almeida just lost. Just lost to Curtis Blades because of his telegraph takedown, and he kept on holding Curtis Blades' ankle, and he didn't work his way back up to a body lock or take the back or anything. He just stayed in that position. Obviously, he'll get better. 6'3" Brazilian, beast, explosive, no striking at all. Only been to decision once, and that was against Derek Lewis. His speed, his strength, all tied up together makes him a relentless finisher. He just finished Alexander Romanov, where 1 takedown in 3 minutes, he got it done. And that was very impressive. And he needed that bounce back win in order for me to tell where he's at in this matchup. Matched up against Serghei Spivac, heavyweight grappler, very good subs. Bread and butter is grappling, but he can't maintain top control at all if his life depended on it. But he's coming off of that first round sub win over Marcin Tybura, where I believe the submission was off of his back, the submission attempt. It was an arm bar, and Tybura was on top, I believe. So we have to mention, there could be a position where Jailton Almeida gets Serghei Spivac down. And what is Serghei Spivac doing? He's throwing up arm submissions. He's throwing up triangles. He's throwing up submissions off his back in order to nullify Jailton Almeida's grappling game. Honestly, I do like Jailton Almeida as a parlay piece. Jailton Almeida, he's parlayable. I do think Almeida by sub or KO inside the distance is pretty likely. But we have to remember a KO on Jailton Almeida is very So instead of taking the double chance by inside the distance, I like Jailton Almeida by submission or on points. Right here, you can see Tapology. Majority Tapology has him to win by submission inside the distance. I don't think this fight's going to go the distance, but just in case it's another Derek Lewis type performance, I'll go Jailton Almeida by submission or on points. I think he should be able to win this fight against Serghei Spivac. He's a minus 250 now. Probably he'll be minus 350 by the time it's UFC 311. So I will say, take him now as a parlay piece, and if you want, take him with Bogdan Guskov. Or you don't have to. Let's say Bogdan Guskov is too much of a sketch. Put the champion of the world who's defending against Arman Tsarukyan in that 2-leg parlay. Sorry, I keep standing up. But I do think Jailton Almeida should be able to win. I know if you want to let's say you want a good solid parlay piece. Jailton Almeida and Islam. Or if you don't want to spoil, you can go Jailton Almeida and you can take Zach Reese. Jailton Almeida and Zachary Reese. I think they both win. I think that's a good little double 2-leg parlay piece. And I think I might put a little sprinkle on it. So, with that being said, this is going to be an absolute barn burner. I think this fight doesn't go the distance. And I like Almeida to win by submission on points. I like the money line. And for Almeida, a guy who lands 2.46 strikes gets hit with less than 1 because he's always shooting, I think it's better for him. So let's go Jailton Almeida for the win. I'll specifically go by submission on points. If it's by points, 29-28. It's either going to be sloppy or it's going to be inside the distance. Rina Nakamura. This guy reminds me of Tasu Taira so much versus Muin Gafurov. Rina Nakamura is a minus 345. Muin Gafurov is plus 275. Rina Nakamura bout order will change as we get closer to the UFC. Pay-per-view, in my opinion, I don't know where he's going to be put on in this card. He's in the bantamweight division. We have a lot of bantamweight prospects on this card. Very high pace, undefeated level wrestler. And an actual wrestler who has competed in wrestling, not just grappling. Good subs, doesn't chase too hard. His striking is wild, but he doesn't mind overcommitting. 9 wins, 6 stoppages, relentless wrestling pace alone is a massive alkaloid. His most recent win was over Carlos Rivera, matched up against Moin Gafurov. Trades in the pocket, good power, good cardio, and wrestling, but he is a slugger. His most recent bout was his first UFC win over Kong Ho Kang, but he showed how bad his wrestling is. Rinna inside the distance. Rinna is very safe to parlay. I like Rinna and Jailton Almeida. I already took that. But if you want a nice little 3-leg parlay, Rinna Nakamura, Jailton Almeida, and Zachary Reese. Those are my 3 most confident picks of the so far already. Rinna, Jailton Almeida, nice little 2-leg in my opinion. I really like that 2-leg. And I like Rinna Nakamura to win this fight by unanimous decision. I always take by KO on points because it reduces the odds, but you have to remember that the submission attempts could be there. If there's an opening, this guy has lost by submission as well by guillotine to Said Nurmagomedov. We know Said is a beast. Said is what we all thought Umar Nurmagomedov was going to be. But Said doesn't even wrestle either. So John Castaneda as well, he lost. We know, I believe that's Sexy Mexi if I'm correct. So that guy is a hard wrestler. Rinna Nakamura should be able to put on a wrestling clinic. He should be able to wrestle. Maybe a couple of submission attempts. But I'll go Rinna Nakamura to win this fight. And I'll go for him to win this fight by unanimous decision. I'll just take Rinna Nakamura. But as we get closer, I'll take the double chance by KO on points. And the reason why I don't take submission on points is because the ground and pound aspect. Sometimes the ground and pound is so relentless. You just need the referee to step in. Just referee steps in. All right, that's it. Sweep it under the rug. Now we go. Rinna Nakamura for the win. I'll go by 29-28 unanimous decision after having a difficult second round. Let's go. Rinna Nakamura with Jailton Almeida. 2-leg parlay. Half a unit. Let's go. Main card time. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. By far one of my most anticipated fights, but I will tell you, my most anticipated fight of this entire card, it's not the main event, it's not the co-main event, it's Reina de Ritter versus Kevin Holland. Plus 195 for Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, who's a minus 230. Beneil Dariush is in a bit of a tough position in his career right now. He's on a 2-fight losing skid in his career. Renato Moicano, who is on the rise, is heavily favored against Dariush. Moicano's a minus 230, Beneil Dariush is plus 195. But some can make the argument Dariush still has it. He lost to the number 2 and number 3 guy ranked in lightweight division. Dariush is a BJJ no-gi world champion, which is very impressive, especially the no-gi. He has won against Gamrot, has undeceiving power, which he showed in that Gamrot fight, and he's on a 2-fight skid, that being to Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, who Arman Tsarukyan is fighting for the belt, and Charles Oliveira has had the belt. I remember when he pulled out against Islam Makhachev, and that was a very good number 1 contender fight. Unfortunately, that fight fell through, and they were never able to fight. But I really would have liked to see Islam and Dariush go back and forth at that time. Now I feel like Islam is so good. Moicano has no power. He has a questionable chin as well, but he can eat a punch. Averages almost 2 takedowns per fight. Has some good clinches and body locks. Most recent bout, he beat BSD, Benoit Saint-Denis, in Paris. His opponent's hometown crowd, he upset the Frenchman in his hometown crowd. The way Moicano was able to catch that body kick, turn it into a body lock, takedown. He sometimes is in a tough fight, and he has to fight his way through. Taking on Beneil Dariush will be a very difficult task. I can see how the dog is perfect to win in this position. Another Beneil Dariush versus Matus Gamrot type of situation, where the guy who's the up-and-comer is heavily favored against the veteran, and the veteran has that hit marker and is able to prevail. I'll pick Moicano by KO or sub, but we have to mention that when you take Moicano money line, it's always hard to predict their Dariush fight, especially a Moicano fight. If anybody's a mystery box, it's Moicano, a guy who beat Brad Riddell, beat Drew Dober, beat Jalen Turner after getting dropped, and then Benoit Saint-Denis is the guy who has some of the most unpredictable outcomes of his entire fights. I didn't even think he was going to submit Brad Riddell. When I saw him submit Brad Riddell, I was like, whoa, what? I thought Brad Riddell was going to be that guy. So the fact that he's facing on Beneil Dariush, this is a very favorable matchup for him in order for him to crack into the higher echelon of the rankings. I will say 18% picking Dariush is heavily recency biased because of Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan being able to both finish him by KO. His chin is questionable, but if his chin is there and it's anything what it is, or let's say it's even a little bit diminished. But Neil Dariush is more technical. He's maybe this is a little bit questionable, but I think the grappling is going to be very, very interesting in this fight. The scrambles, taking the back. But Neil Dariush had a beautiful scrambling exchange against Matus Gamrot. So, with that being said, I'm going Renato Moicano, but very low confidence. I will say this is probably one of the best dogs on the entire card, Beneil Dariush. But I think Moicano's in his own, and he hit his prime. At 35 years old, I would never expect somebody to hit their prime. But in the lightweight division, it seems like he had a little bit of a Charles Oliveira resurgence. So I'll go Renato Moicano to win this fight inside the distance. And I'll go by KO or submission. Let's go. It's going to be a tough fight, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all 15. Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. 18-2-0 Reinier de Ridder. Former 2-Division 1 FC champion versus Kevin Holland. Had the 5-fight win streak, 5 fights in 1 year. All-time Hall of Famer, record breaker. Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. I believe Reinier de Ridder is the favorite. I don't know the odds right now for this fight, but we're just going to break it down. My most anticipated fight on the entire card. My best fight on the entire card. I'm looking forward to this fight. My most anticipated fight on the entire card. Sorry about that. Kevin Holland is a good grappler, decent get-up game, but gets taken down way too much. Was competitive with Hamza, was more competitive than Whitaker, which is actually insane because Kevin Holland had a little bit more success than Whitaker, but we know Whitaker broke his teeth. Kevin Holland recently lost to Roma Delidze. He was taken down and he broke his rib, and that fight ended. I was really upset because I felt bad for Kevin Holland because he wanted to fight, but his rib was out of place. So that's a position where you can no longer fight no more, and you live to fight another day. So I'm glad that we have Kevin Holland in this fight, in this beautiful matchup where he's taking on Reinier de Ridder. Former 2-Division champion in 1 FC. Sorry, guys. Grappling is his bread and butter. At 6'4", his striking is sloppy and got dropped by GM3, which I would expect anybody to get dropped by Gerald Meerschaert. But if he can't take you down, he loses. He lost both belts to the same guy because he was not able to get the fight to the ground. His most recent win is by sub over JM3, but he had to work for it. Kevin Holland's takedown defense is terrible, but I remember the days where he lost to Brunson and Vettori. Never really improved since then. We don't know. You don't know. You can't say for certain. Reinier de Ridder should be able to impose his will. I just hope he doesn't get dropped by Holland. He was too risky against JM3. Too sloppy, too risky, trying to get his mojo down and trying to get his, trying to just have a successful UFC debut. And when I see that, I think that screams Kevin Holland to hit you with that nice right hand, that nice left hand. Reinier de Ridder is going to go down. Former 2-Division champ from 1 FC is very, very good. It's a very good accolade. I will say this is a 1-800-gambler type of fight. If Holland gets taken down, it's most likely over, but Holland can drop RDR badly. But I would stick with the grappler. I'm very high on RDR because I just like laughing at him. When I saw him fight GM3, that was 3 weeks and 4 days ago, bro. Dude, you know how funny that was watching him fight JM3? I was biting my nails, and then he gets dropped by JM3 in the first round. Or I don't know if it was the second round, but I'm like, what the fuck? Who gets dropped by JM3? And I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh no, he's going to lose this fight. And I need this fight to end inside the distance because he's finished almost all of his opponents inside the distance. And he's going to go to the decision with Gerald Meerschaert. I'm like, no, please don't go the distance, please. And then he finishes him inside the distance and he wins and he cashes out. But those types of guys are guys that you do not want to bet on again. If he's in a position where he gets dropped by Kevin Holland, the Trailblazer, will hammer fist you until you go out. So you do not want to play that game with Kevin Holland. I'm going to go Reinier de Ridder. Low confidence, but there's a reason why this is my most anticipated fight on the entire card. Comes from the Netherlands. I just like watching this guy. He's a fucking good scrapper. And people from the Netherlands are always fun. I went there and everybody plays soccer there. Everybody's an athlete there. So I just like where he comes from. So that's why I'm biased. I'm going to go Reinier de Ridder to win this fight by unanimous decision or submission. I'll go submission and I'll go third round submission. He tends to have to fight his way through in order to get a submission. Let's go. Ilir Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. banger fight. Absolute banger fight. If you're in this point of the video, guys, drop a like, guys. The least you could do. Thank you guys for so much. Minus 130 for Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill is a plus 110. Very surprising the fact that Jamal Hill is a plus 110 because I would expect Jamal Hill to be the favorite. This is a banger fight. In my opinion, if you really like these odds, jump on somebody now because these odds are not going to stay the same 2 to 3 weeks from now. This is a banger fight, intense fight, a fight that will make you sweat, a fight that makes you want to go to the edge of your seat, a fight that makes you a UFC fan. Both of these guys are Payton's sons, which is something that everybody's going to be making that joke. Jamal is very funny, in my opinion. I know a lot of people hate him, but that motherfucker is funny, bro. I'm always in for a Jamal Hill rambling session. Jiri, former champ, unorthodox. My favorite KO from him is over Volkan Oezdemir and Dominic Reyes. All 30 of his wins are by KO, basically. Majority of his wins are by KO. You can just look at his resume. This guy is an absolute beast. Always swings wild, but is a technician. Sometimes when it comes to forcing his will, he gets hit more than he lands with his strikes. And sometimes he needs to overwhelm his opponent. His second round KO loss to Payton with that head kick got him brutally. And I will say that it's because he has to eat a bunch of punches in order for him to deal damage. Excuse me, guys. I have to burp. I just ate. And I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, guys. God bless. But I will say, Yuri Prochazka has to eat apples and bananas in order to get his damage going. And with a guy like Jamal Hill, that body kick over the top, beautiful kick to the body, beautiful teep to the body, beautiful 1-2, good orthodox stance, good defensively sound stance. He did get finished faster against Payton, but Payton stepped on his foot. Payton cheated. But, bro, this is actually going to be this is going to be a gambling fight. This is a 1-800 gambler type of fight, bro. I know I say that all the time, but this is a 1-800 gambler type of fight. Now that I'm breaking this fight down, holy shit, somebody's going to get fucking finished and clowned for the rest of their career. This is one of those fights where this is going to be a meme. Let me just keep on going. Wow, this is by far one of my most anticipated fights. I know I just said RDR was it. Then, okay, so let's go. So, that wild head kick got him brutally KO'd Yuri Prochazka. He is matched up against another former champion. He has never lost his belt, Jamal Hill. He actually had to vacate his belt. Good at managing distance, incredible striking differential, 7-3, very good body kick, good accuracy, 73% takedown defense, which is very good considering he fought Glover Teixeira. Lost to Payton at UFC 300. Most recently, a lot of people hate Jamal, but Jamal is overlooked many times over and over. But I do think he is more technical than Jiri. This fight was inevitable. Jamal might have a stronger chin. Jiri beat Glover with a sub 5th round, only 30 seconds left. He beats Rockkick after losing the first round. Jiri eats punches for breakfast. Jamal is the logical pick, but Jamal is the underdog. Skill for skill, Hill is probably the better fighter in a 3-round fight. But it doesn't matter skill for skill. It matters if you're going to go out or not. So, is Yuri Prochazka going to just eat punches? He's going to start barking like at Jubilee. He's going to, he's going to start barking. He's going to start barking, just eating punches for breakfast, walking Jamal Hill down, walking him down, eating punches, working his leg because he doesn't check leg kicks at all. Yuri Prochazka has never checked a leg kick in his entire career. So is this Jamal Hill clinic? Is this a Jamal Hill by unanimous decision clinic? Or is this a Jamal Hill finishing Yuri Prochazka by KO? I don't know. 1-800 gambler type of fight. I will say, 50-50 fight, you can flip a quarter on it. I hate picking against Yuri, but I'm going to have to pick against Yuri, guys. Yuri is that guy. And a lot of people can say this guy was losing, but he always prevails. He always prevails. You guys might see me official pick flip all the way to Yuri Prochazka. But the reason why I do these super early predictions is so that way you guys can look at the odds, jump on whoever you want to jump on, and let it ride. Just let it ride. Whatever happens, just let it ride. I like the over 1.5 for this fight. If it's there, 33 years old versus 32. It's going to look like a mirror match, but it's going to look nothing like a mirror match when these guys face off in the cage and they clash heads. I'm going to go Jamal Hill, work the body kick, work the leg, work the teep to the body. Your boss is going to have to eat 7, 8, 9, 10 strikes. Overwhelming amount of output. Jamal Hill looked beautiful against Glover Teixeira. He's never lost the belt. And we can argue that Jiří Procházka, how much longer can you just eat these punches? I'm going to go Jamal Hill. I'll go Jamal Hill by KO. Unfortunately, as much as I want Jiří Procházka to win, my notes are telling me it's Jamal Hill by KO. Let's go. I'll go Jamal Hill by KO or on points. I'll go Jamal Hill by 3rd round KO. It's very hard to put this guy Jiří Procházka out, and I don't think anybody will. So me personally, I think it's going to be a Jamal Hill by decision. So that's why I like the Jamal Hill by KO on points. I'll go Jamal Hill to win. Let me know if you guys got Jiří, and let me know. You don't even have to explain it. Just put its flag. Jiří Procházka. I already know you got Jiří, and it might convince me to pick Jiří as well. Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Banger fight. Sorry if this video is a little bit longer. Majority topology is going to Nurmagomedov. We have to mention Merab is defending his belt for the very first time. Recently destroyed O'Malley. Averages 6 takedowns per 15 minutes. His last loss was in 2018 to Ricky Simon, where Simon was taken down 6 times. And he almost lost that fight. Merab is a company man. He made a quick turnaround, just like they made fucking Aljamain Sterling make that quick turnaround. They made Merab Dvalishvili make a quick turnaround as well. For this fight, Merab gets wobbled here and there sometimes, but he's the cardio king, recovery king. He takes the name from Colby Covington. Now taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. 6 fights in the UFC with 15 takedowns, 31 minutes of control, 2 submissions, and 2 wins by KO. Uses his front kick very well. By far one of his most used attribute weapon in his arsenal. Very heavy kicks into very heavy grappling chain wrestling. Khabib prodigy. Would this guy get a title shot without his last name? Who cares? His most recent win was over Corey Sandhagen, a #1 contender fight where his striking looked very excellent to high-level wrestlers. This will be a wrestling clinic. Honestly, he didn't put on a wrestling clinic against Corey Sandhagen, but I believe that this match will have scrambles, back takes, reversals. This fight will scream wrestling. We can see Khabib, Islam all hang out with DJ, Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson. It's insane how hard these guys train their whole lives for this moment. I believe Khabib Nurmagomedov was talking to Demetrius Johnson, and he mentioned how one of his colleagues, Khabib's colleagues, recently lost. And since he lost that fight, they destroyed his computer. And they destroyed his computer because he lost that match. So that's why I'm not... dude, I can't believe they destroyed his computer, bro. Just because he lost the fight. So these guys are... They'll cut off their hair to make weight. So these guys... There's a reason why they're undefeated their whole entire life. Umar is more than likely the better striker, but the cardio is on Merab's side. Umar Nurmagomedov should be able to be there for 25 minutes, but I do think Khabib in his corner is almost overpowered. Khabib in the corner, what is Khabib in the corner in the UFC? This guy's like only lost 1 time when Khabib's in the corner, like in general. When Khabib's in the corner of the UFC, let's just take all attributes out. Forget who he's fighting. Khabib in the corner. How many times does Khabib in the corner matter? Almost every single time. Every single time. The fact that Khabib is going to be in his corner, I do think he's going to be in his corner. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe he's not. I'm going to go Umar Nurmagomedov, and I hate this. The cardio's on Merab's side. Everything's on Merab's side. This guy has 6 fights in the UFC, and he got a title shot. And Merab, you have to fight like man. You have to be man. You have to earn your title shot like man. And this guy, Umar Nurmagomedov, is not really representing what, working for your title shot would look like. A guy like Merab even waited for his friend Aljamain Sterling to leave the division. Maybe that backfires because he loses his first title defense. But a guy like Merab definitely had to work for that title 10 times harder than Umar Nurmagomedov. I do think that the the Corey Sandhagen fight was a great blueprint for anybody that's fighting Umar Nurmagomedov. Let's say I'm O'Malley. Let's say I'm Sean O'Malley and I'm going to fight Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm looking at that Corey Sandhagen fight very, very closely because if I can remember from what I recall, from what I can remember from that fight, I believe it was in Saudi Arabia. The takedowns were good, but Corey Sandhagen's get-up game, his Grammy rolls, his way to get right back up into the striking department, he got tired, obviously, and then he was getting outstruck by Umar, but he did put on a great like takedown defense performance. The way he was able to consistently defend a couple of takedowns that Umar was forced to strike with Corey, but he still had success. I do think Umar and Merab are going to have to be forced to strike eventually. You're not going to wrestle all 25. Maybe this ages like milk. But I do think there's going to be some minutes in between. You know, let's say the second round, third round in between. I think this fight goes the distance, in my opinion. I do think there's going to be some minutes in between where they're striking and they're forced to strike. Not because they don't want to wrestle, but sometimes in wrestling, whoever shoots first can dictate the pace. But also, if you shoot a bad takedown, we know Merab is always going to be shooting just to get him tired. You can end up in a bad position. So this fight might be a little bit more tentative. It might not just be all fireworks, all five rounds. I think it might be more like a chess match where these guys are fighting for leverage. These guys are taking each other's back, slowly working the clock, and then it'll slowly go for 25 minutes. And I think Umar wins this fight by unanimous decision. 3-2. 3 rounds to 2. I'll go 48-47 Umar. 48-47 Merab. And then for the winner by split decision, 48-47 Umar Nurmagomedov. And everybody freaks out. And Khabib gets to wrap another belt against for another one of his prodigies. I'll go Umar Nurmagomedov to win this fight by 48-47 unanimous decision. Actually, split decision. Let's go. Let me know what you guys got. Let me know who you guys think. I love Merab, bro, but they're feeding him to the wolves, to the eagle. So I'll go Umar Nurmagomedov to win by split decision. Let's go. Main event time, baby. Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Islam minus 340. Maybe earlier in the week you could have got him as a minus 200. If you did, perfect. Minus 340 for Islam Makhachev. Arman Tsarukyan plus 270. Islam defending his belt in a rematch. The first and only time Islam has been taken down was their first bout in Arman Tsarukyan's UFC debut. Let me just take a drink of water. Islam, dominant champion, fulfilling Khabib's legacy. Most well-rounded fighter I have ever seen. The number one pound for pound. I remember everybody was talking about Volkanovski number one, Islam number one. That time was amazing, man. That was an amazing time to just be watching UFC. So, most well-rounded fighter I've ever seen. Averages more than 3 takedowns per fight, but it's because he sticks on you like glue. I made a mistake choosing Dawson over Islam, but seeing Islam in the cage, this guy is massive. You need to do less than a 24-hour rehydration clause if you want to get Islam vulnerable. He cuts a shit ton of weight, taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Very good footwork, incredible wrestler, only person to ever take down Islam. Mixes in his kicks very good. Has a beautiful axe kick, which he almost got Oliveira with. And his most recent win, that being Charlie Olives, he took him down and nullified all of his submission attempts. And he even cut him up with an elbow, if I believe. This fight being a rematch makes things more tricky. Both fighters have gotten way better since their first fight. Arman was super young in their first fight, and that was his UFC debut. I think Arman is going to be defending relentless chain wrestling with mixing in some of his own takedown attempts. We have seen Gamrot have success against Arman, and that was a pretty close fight. In my opinion, I thought Arman Tsarukyan won against Gamrot, but Gamrot did have some success in order for him to convince the judges for him to win that fight. Islam publicly said that his toughest fight was against Volkanovski, their first fight, and then he destroyed him in the rematch. A beautiful adjustment, touching the body, and then switching to a head kick. A good adjustment. Islam is incredibly well at adjusting in between rounds. We saw with the Dustin Poirier fight, as he got cut up, his lacerations all over his face. He still prevails. He still ends up actually... Dustin would do this thing where Dustin would get taken down. Islam would be trying to grab the leg, and Dustin would try to roll out, try to spin out or roll out. He did this with Oliveira too. And it worked a couple of times, but after, in the 5th round, Dustin Poirier's a little bit more tired. He's trying to spin out or trying to, like, roll out. And the way Islam is able to wrap up like an anaconda, just wrap him up and just tie him up. I saw Dustin Poirier like this. I knew Dustin Poirier was going to go to sleep. I had that fight 2-2 going into the 5th round. Let me know what your judges' scorecards were for that fight. Some people had it 4-1 Islam. In my opinion, I thought it was 2-2 going into that 5th round. Some people had it 3-1. I thought that Islam looked human, the most human that I've ever seen him. In my opinion, I thought the Dustin Poirier looked like the hardest fight he's ever been in. But he says the Volkanovski 1 fight was his hardest fight. So take that how you will. I think the Dustin Poirier fight was by far one of his hardest fights, though. Khabib did get on him for a little bit. He was like, oh, Dustin gave you a little bit of trouble with that fight, and he doesn't like to admit it, or maybe he does, but Dustin is an absolute beast, so you can't take that away from him. So whoever it is, Volkanovski, Dustin Poirier, he's always in an absolute war. He's always in a fun fight. And I did mention how Islam sometimes, like against Thiago Moises, it was a little bit lackluster. But now that he's champion, this guy has had fun fights all around his career. He's incredibly well at adjusting in between rounds. Was able to adjust after Dustin Poirier was able to do these little spin attempts to get out of takedown attempts, and he was able to capitalize off of Dustin Poirier's spin attempt and ended up getting him in a darts choke, I believe. So this fight is perfect. 6 months ago, Islam Makhachev's most recent fight. 8 months ago, Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan's most recent fight. I do think that this fight will go the distance, but don't completely single out Arman. He has a better chance than anyone that has fought Islam Makhachev before. This is Islam's toughest test. So I want to mention how this is a long video. In my opinion, I think Arman Tsarukyan is by far Islam Makhachev's toughest test. I think he's going to be a tougher test than Dustin Poirier. He's going to be a tougher test than Volkanovski the first time. And we know Islam Makhachev is very good at adjusting. He's very good at adjusting, especially in rematches. And I believe from the bottom of my heart, I think that's why Charles Oliveira pulled out when he was scheduled to fight and Volkanovski stepped in. I think Charles Oliveira, and I know this is a little bit excessive, a little over-exaggerated, Charles Oliveira was training hard sparring 9 days before the fight, hard sparring, and he ends up cutting his eyebrow, splitting his eyebrow, forced to pull out of the fight, and Volkanovski takes his fight with 1 week notice. And yeah, he's the baddest motherfucker ever. Yeah, he took this fight, but he wasn't ready. He just got off the couch, and Islam made him pay for that. He knocked him out in the first round in Abu Dhabi. I feel like Charles Oliveira would have had that same fate that day. And the MMA gods saved Charles Oliveira. Whether he cut himself on purpose or whatever he was doing, being careless, hard sparring, everything happens for a reason. The MMA gods chose to save Charles Oliveira that day instead of Volkanovski in trade of Volkanovski's prime. That day we traded Volkanovski's prime for a couple more wins for Charles Oliveira. I do think Charles Oliveira is going to be able to maybe get a second title shot, but whoever wins this fight, I think is going to hold the belt for a very long time. With that being said, I'm going to go Islam Makhachev. This is probably the first ever time I've ever picked Islam Makhachev. If you know me, I hate Islam Makhachev. Dude, I hate Islam Makhachev, dude. Obviously, I knew he was going to win against Judober and Thiago Moises. But against Dan Hooker, I wanted Dan Hooker to put up a decent performance. Against Bobby Green, I wanted Bobby Green to put up a decent performance. Against Charles Oliveira, I went Charles Oliveira. Against Volkanovski, I went Volkanovski. I said that he won the first fight. And then against Volkanovski, the second time I said he was going to win. And then Dustin Poirier, I chose Dustin Poirier. So this is the first time I'm ever picking Islam Makhachev. And make what you want. Maybe I'm a casual for that, but it's because I'm a fan of the UFC. So I will always go with my heart, no matter how many people are picking who. I'm going to go Islam Makhachev. I think it's about time that he shows everybody what he's really got. And I think he's going to be able to finish this fight inside the distance. I'm going to go Islam Makhachev by submission or on points. I think something weird's going to happen this fight. I think something weird's going to happen this fight where we're going to look at one of these guys' careers like, damn, that fight was a big factor of his whole career. I think this fight's very important, and I think this fight's going to go down in history as by far one of the most elite matchups, probably one of the closest fights ever. Arman Tsarukyan has the grappling clinic. He can even scramble out of some submission attempts. He was able to get out of a heavy 2 submission attempts from Charles Oliveira. Islam Makhachev has different types of submission attempts from Charles Oliveira, but I do think that this fight will go the distance. I like the over 4.5, and I like Islam Makhachev to win by submission or on points. And if you want to go prop hunting, I like Islam Makhachev by points. I'll go by 48-47, 49-46, and 48-47 unanimous decision. Let me know what you guys got. I do think that this fight will cement Islam Makhachev as the greatest lightweight of all time if he's able to win this fight. If he can win this fight, his resume is better than Khabib's. Khabib beat Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and the notorious Conor McGregor. This guy, Islam Makhachev's resume is, you can argue that his resume is already better than Khabib Nurmagomedov. If Khabib and Islam were to fight, who would win? I don't know. Maybe that's a time for another talk. But I'm going to go Islam Makhachev, and I'm going to go by 48-47, 49-46, 48-47 unanimous decision. Let me know what you guys think. It should be a banger fight. Honestly, roll all my notes. Longer video, but let's go. Merry Christmas. May the best man win. The best is blessed. We have a month. It's a month away. January 18th. January 18th, 2025. Make your goals. Say what you want for Christmas. And make your New Year's resolutions. I bet you nobody will be at the gym on January 1st, 2025. Or maybe everybody. Okay, so I bet you January 7th, 2025, nobody will be at the gym. All right. See you guys at the next one. Let's go. Peace.